It wouldn't be too much of a stretch to say that most VR games are made either in a sandbox or arcade style. With the first games being really simple to prove the concept, like The Lab, Job Simulator or Rick and Morty. Then later on it evolved into more physics-based simulations like Boneworks and Bone Lab that allowed for more interaction with the environment as a fully modeled body. But they were still pretty quick to jump into and play with. Now though, I think we entered a new stage, with games using all of these features and making it more of a calculated and dangerous adventure, one where if you don't plan, you will die. I am referring to Into the Radius VR, a game released about 2 years ago. It can be considered more of a horror game, because it uses downtime to instill fear in you and create tension, while also enticing you with curious anomalies and otherworldly imagery. First off, yeah, welcome to where time stands still and no one leaves. You are one of the few survivors of this calamity where a meteor crashed down and froze everything in place in a big radius, hence the name, and only the residents are able to travel inside, any foreign entities that try to enter suffering from illness, confusion and prompt death. Those being the many soldiers sent in to bring order, both from the USSR and NATO that you see strewn about all over the radius. The story itself is pretty vague, but I don't agree with people who say it's bad. It serves the dreamlike world that you travel well, with odd missions that start off as a simple retrieval, but you start slowly getting notes that show how your actions somehow impact the past lives of the people that are now frozen, eventually culminating into you doing grocery shopping for a marriage party. So yeah, that's pretty weird. The cool thing is that none of this is too in your face, you can completely miss it if you don't look around. The ambience is top notch, the low hums, the ash in the air, and objects stopped mid-air like a literal train collision paused. So scary in fact that for quite a while I myself didn't even dare venture into the radius proper, preferring to play around with the guns in the shooting range, which was also scary but more of a comfy, unsettling vibe. Like staying indoors when it's snowing outside. Which leads me to another point. Guns! I honestly have never seen another VR game approach guns quite the same way as this one. Most others simply have a mag pouch from where you can pull out as many magazines as you want. Even in games like Boneworks where you have inventory slots, the mags are just infinite. Well, here you have to manage your magazines and your bullets too. This might sound tedious at first, loading every bullet into your magazine, but it makes you so much more invested. You have to then store them on your vest where you have 5 slots, and preferably you should leave one slot empty so you can put an empty magazine back. And you can even have knives, detectors, flashlights and other miscellaneous objects that you can carry and store all over your body, like on your forearms or again on your vest. It makes you so much more immersed having all of it for you to grab instead of a regular traditional menu. The buttons are instead reserved for different gun selections, like firing mode, holding your breath for more accurate shots with two-handed weapons, ejecting magazines, and turning on flashlights or lasers. Oh yeah, you can also modify your guns by putting on different attachments like these two and other custom sights, but before that, you need to learn how to maintain your weapons so it won't jam in the middle of a tense gunfight. I know I'm ranting now, but all of the customization and the slow burn of this setting, everything is just something that most other VR titles don't have the guts to do, because it may turn off people who want immediate and constant action. Now, explorers, you are ready to go out into the Pechorsk exclusion zone and jump at every shadow because you are so on edge. Really, the first time I went out I was trembling, moving slowly while crouching physically with a beginner pistol and knife in hand. This girl doesn't help either with her teleporting behind you. But what's worse is having the stock Quest 2 head strap that will mess up your gameplay with all the constant and fast head turning you will be doing. So why not think about getting a better head strap for a more comfortable and safe PlayStation, like this pretty inexpensive Kiwi one. I use it myself and you can use the link below from the pinned comment to get one too. Think of it as a way to support this channel and to support your neck from injury. Now you will eventually get dull to the fear of this game, but it never goes completely away. Even late game you will clench your cheeks when going in a warehouse full of mimics, because this place toys with you and wants you dead. Let curiosity make you wander off and you will soon find yourself alone at night in pitch black, or teleported by the tide, or just plain old killed by something that you are not ready to face yet, or just too careless to notice. Now, the main objective is completing these high priority missions to unlock new security levels for access to better weapons and equipment to progress, while also looting and trying to use the least amount of resources, as in ammo and healing syringes. At the beginning, you should grab everything you come across to have back at base, but when you have plenty of food, grenades and all that stuff, you should focus on only the high value items like artifacts found in anomaly fields and science equipment such as weather monitors or photo traps found in buildings. You can also do randomly generated missions, but for me they are too spread out and inconvenient for making money. What you have to keep in mind is that every couple of days the tide comes in and resets all killed enemies, collected loot, and if you happen to be in the zone and not in a shelter, it will teleport you to a random location, possibly even in the middle of dangerous enemies or in an anomaly field. There is a timer on your pocket map to let you know when this happens, and this is a mechanic that drives you to plan in this game. Because you want to chart out your adventures, so you get as much loot and know what areas are worth clearing out and what enemies you should just leave alone, because they don't actually give you anything if you kill them. If you can spare them and not have to use your bullets, then you're better off. Though when I come back after a while I kind of forget what I did, so that sucks. This is why it's fun to try different weapons and equipment loadouts. For example, I like the M4, but I recently tried to see what AKI may be like. The AKM, for example, had horrible sights in my opinion, and the Cobra sight was sitting a bit too high for my liking, but the AK-74 had fluorescent sights and was more stable to shoot Fallout. So I picked it up and went shooting out in the middle of the night. That is when I saw one of the most beautiful sights in my game yet. I turned off my headlamp that I usually leave on because I can only see like 10 meters in front of me, and this was a highway, so I had to see far, though I almost fell down in a ditch. So now I can barely see anything, not even my gun, just the yellow sides, the outline of the terrain, the armored enemies, and the illuminating black sphere in the distance. I just had to sit down and be marveled at just how amazing it looked. This is a good example of why I love this game so much, maybe even my favorite VR game right now, because these moments aren't scripted and they happen dynamically. I'm lucky I left a save to show you, because stories like these happen when you are just enjoying the game, not actively recording for a video, which is a bit inconvenient for me to show precisely what I'm talking about, but I think this is a good example. I can't attest for the standalone version experience, but everything tied together made me feel astonished. That is why I love VR so much, because I keep getting these experiences every once in a while, and it just doesn't get dull like most things. Now, regarding the music, I think the soundtrack does its job very well. It enhances the loneliness and synergizes with some other anomalies like the pulsating one, or even masks the presence of the rift, an anomaly that spawns enemies until shot. Plenty of times the change was so gradual and the sound so constant that I didn't notice it until seeing it, eliminating it, and then hearing the deafening silence and realizing the creeps it gave me. Oh, and there are these cassettes that you can find laying around when looting, and they either have some helpful tips from other explorers or some additional soundtracks. They are a good respite after getting back to base from an arduous expedition. Now let's listen and calm down. Yeah, if you weren't scared until now, this is just a final FU from the game. Now even the home base, the only safe place for you, has that trust broken and I was looking out of my window with my gun drawn. This game is surprisingly playable on Quest standalone along with PC VR. I have trouble with running it at high resolutions with my 3070 Ti, but somehow it works on the standalone. So if you don't have a PC, then rest assured, I strongly recommend playing this game. It's one of the games I played the most recently and I get back to consistently. If you have any game recommendations though, then let me know in the comments. And if you still aren't such a fan of dark and gritty games, but you enjoyed my commentary, then press on either video displayed on the screen right now about Bone Lab and Boneworks.